Hello, and welcome back to another English lesson. In today's English lesson, we are going to watch a clip from Fox News. I will talk about them later, where President Trump and President Zelensky meet somewhere in New York City and they answer a few questions from reporters. After I play the clip, I will come back and teach you some of the English phrasal verbs they use. They actually use quite a bit in a short period of time. There are some idioms used. I'll also give a grade to President Zelensky's English. Of course, he is not a native English speaker. We will see how he does under pressure, and we will talk about how it gets a little awkward between the two presidents standing in front of reporters. Before we get to that clip, I do want to talk briefly about Fox News. I don't usually pick this news source because they are way biased towards Republicans. So they lean right. People who really like President Trump will watch this news channel. CNN is the opposite. They really like Vice President Kamala Harris. Let's watch the clip and then I will come back and teach.
Oh, another Fox News alert now. A moment ago in Midtown Manhattan at the Trump Tower, this is the meeting with Ukrainian President Zelensky and the former President Donald Trump. They sat down in front of the cameras, took a few questions, made a few comments. We've got the videotape, so let's go ahead and cue that up for you and listen.
The news reporter says videotape. That might be something you don't know in English. So let's talk about it. For each term or phrasal verb, I will have a picture, I will have a definition, and then I will use that in a sentence. The news reporter's name is Bill Hemmer, I believe, and he is an older guy like myself. Videotape does not exist anymore. I'm sure this interview was shot digitally. There's no tape involved, but let's look at the definition. To record an event or moment using a camera. So even though videotape is no longer used, you might hear older people like me talk about it. Here's a sentence. They videotaped the meeting between President Trump and President Zelensky to share with the public later. Wait, I might have made a mistake. I think Zelensky only has one Y at the end. Of course, when he writes his own name, I'm sure he uses the Cyrillic alphabet. Cue that up. Bill Hemmer also says cue that up. What does it mean? To prepare or get something ready, especially a video or a song, which is exactly what they did Fox News. The news station queued up the video of the Trump and Zelensky meeting for everyone to watch. And before we get too far in the lesson, if you don't mind, please hit that like button. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe so you never miss another English lesson.
Oh, another Fox News alert now. A moment ago in Midtown Manhattan at the Trump Tower, this is the meeting with Ukrainian President Zelensky and the former President Donald Trump. They sat down in front of the cameras, took a few questions, made a few comments. We've got the videotape, so let's go ahead and cue that up for you and listen.
Have the president with us, and he's been through a lot. He's been through a tremendous amount, like probably nobody else, almost nobody else in history, if you really get right down to it. And we're going to have a discussion and see what we can come up with. But great honor to have you with us. Thank you very much.
And now there are a lot of challenges in Ukraine, United States, and of course I want to discuss with you. I think where we are together, I think we have common view that the war in Ukraine has to be stopped.
Oh, look at the person in the picture. They look like they have been having a rough day, but it's nothing compared to what President Zelensky has been through over the last couple years. What does been through a lot mean? To have experienced many difficult things. President Zelensky has been through a lot with the war in Ukraine. And let me say really quickly, I know that the people of Ukraine have suffered a lot because of this war. I know there are many people in Russia who don't believe in this war. I really hope this war can stop quickly so many lives can be saved. Tremendous. That is a very good word to know in English. It will help you describe things. What does tremendous mean? Very large or great. President Trump said the meeting was a tremendous opportunity to talk about peace. In that picture, I would say that was a tremendous explosion. Tremendous can be good or it can be bad. One more example that's bad for tremendous, and we'll end with a good one. There has been a tremendous loss of life during this war. It's another way to say a lot of people have died. But let's end tremendous on a good note. She did a tremendous job on her English test. She did tremendously. That's how we use it as an adverb.
We'll have the president with us, and he's been through a lot. He's been through a tremendous amount, like probably nobody else, almost nobody else in history, if you really get right down to it. And we're going to have a discussion and see what we can come up with, but great honor to have you with
Thank you
us.
so much.
Thank you very much.
And now there are a lot of challenges in Ukraine, United States, and of course I want to discuss with you. I think where we are together, I think we have common view that the war in Ukraine has to be stopped and Putin can't win, and Ukrainians have to prevail. And I want to discuss with you the details of our plan of victory.
English phrasal verb here. Come up with. What does that mean? Well, if you look in the picture, there are a bunch of light bulbs on that white piece of paper. I don't know about in your country, but when somebody has a good idea, maybe you will see a light bulb, if it's a cartoon, saying that, oh, they had a really good idea. So to come up with means to think of or create a plan or an idea. They tried to come up with a plan to end the war in Ukraine. Prevail. That's how you say that word, prevail, and it means to succeed or win after a struggle. President Zelensky hopes Ukraine will prevail in the war. I know learning English is a struggle. Hopefully, you are prevailing in your quest to learn English. Let's talk a little bit about President Zelensky's English. It's actually not bad. He does make some mistakes when speaking English. Of course, it's not his first language, but I could understand everything he said. He even tries to make a couple jokes. I'm sure it is intimidating for him to be in front of a lot of reporters who speak English. He's next to a man who speaks pretty good English with President Trump. We'll talk a little bit more about his English later, but I think he does a pretty good job. I do have this note here. I think it's a little later in the interview, but he does say we have more good relations with the allies, or maybe he says that. I couldn't quite tell what he said because President Trump talks over him. Let's talk about that in a minute, but I think he's trying to make a joke. So no, he shouldn't say more, better, or more good relations. He should say we have better relations with the allies. But again, not a native English speaker. So as long as I understand, good for him. He didn't need a translator for this interview. But at some point, I do think President Zelensky just wants to leave, just get away from the reporters, because President Trump keeps talking about himself. And he does talk over President Zelensky quite a few times. What does that mean? It's a lot like interrupting, but not quite. It means like talking louder than another person so you can't hear them. But let's get the official definition that does use interrupt. To interrupt someone while they are speaking. At the meeting, there were moments when President Trump talked over President Zelensky. But I commend President Zelensky for not using a translator. He chose to speak English. I'm sitting here editing this video and I just heard myself. He chose to speak English. Even native English speakers make mistakes sometimes. It should be he chose to speak English. All right, back to the lesson. But when he did that, he does give more power to President Trump by speaking the language President Trump is more comfortable with. I'm pretty sure President Trump can't speak Ukrainian, and you probably know this better than anyone else. You can express yourself in your first language a lot better than you can in English, which is why I try to create these English lessons so you can express yourself better in English.
Do you have a question for the president?
First of all, it's very important to share all the plan, all our steps, how we can strengthen Ukraine. And of course, we have to decide it now, because after November, we don't know who is. Only Americans decide who will be the president. But we understand that till November, we can't stop Putin. We have to do it. We will try on the battlefield with our heroic soldiers. But we understand that after November, we have to decide. And we hope that the strength of United States will be very strong, and we count on it. That's why I decided to meet with both candidates with all honor to them. Thank you.
I would like to talk about a couple months President Trump mentions. He says, after November, just so you know, Americans will be voting for our next president in November, on November 5th. So he says, if I win by January, this war will be over. If he gets elected in November, he will not take office. He will not become president until January. If he wins, or if President Harris wins in November, from November to January, they will be known as president-elect. Also, there is some confusion when one of the reporters says Mr. President. They're not quite sure if they are talking about Zelensky or Trump. Our former presidents are often called president, even though they're not president anymore.
Mr. President, Mr. President Trump, so what are your expectations about this meeting? So what I expect to hear from the President Zelensky, and what are your expectations?
Say it a little louder, please.
What are your expectations from this meeting? What do you expect to hear from Mr.
Nothing, look.
Also, President Trump tells a reporter, can you repeat that? I didn't hear that. The reporter has some kind of accent. So I don't know if President Trump was being polite by saying, I didn't hear you, when in reality, he may not have understood her the first time. Native English speakers are very good at understanding accents. It just might take our ear a second to understand the accent we are listening to. There are so many different accents in the English language.
We will try on the battlefield with our heroic soldiers.
The next one, heroic. Heroic. If you know the noun hero, heroic is the adjective to describe someone who is a hero. The official definition, very brave and admired. Many people see President Zelensky as heroic for standing up against Russia. Standing up. English phrasal verb, not backing down. Stand up means you fight for what you believe in. Back down means the opposite. You don't. Take a look at the picture. Many people consider firefighters heroic for the dangerous job they do.
Look, this is a meeting, and we have a big race going on right now. I guess 37 days left, and we're leading in the polls, and so we'll see how it all works out. Hopefully it'll work out, but if it does, we're going to work very much with both parties to try and get this settled.
How it all works out. How a situation ends or is resolved. I think we will talk about resolved a little later, but it means to come to an end, finish. Both leaders are waiting to see how it all works out with the peace talks. Get it settled. You can see in the picture there is a handshake. That means to solve a problem or reach an agreement. President Trump said they need to get this settled as soon as possible. President Trump also said he's leading in the polls. The polls are when people are asked who they are going to vote for in November. He says he is leading in the polls, which means he's beating Kamala Harris right now. It just depends. Some polls say Vice President Harris is winning. Some polls say President Trump. Of course, he will look at the polls that say he is going to win.
It has to end. At some point, it has to end. He's gone through hell, and his country has gone through hell like few countries have ever, like it's happened anywhere. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. It's a terrible situation. And I will say I have had a great relationship. It was very honorable. I don't even know if you know this, but when they did the impeachment hoax, it was a hoax, just a Democrat hoax, which we won.
Gone through hell. What does that mean? Well, you can see there is a man, I think it's a man, on a couch. He looks pretty defeated. So you could say that you went through hell during a work day, but of course, when we're talking about Ukraine, it's a lot more serious. But here is the definition: to have experienced something extremely difficult or painful. President Zelensky's country has gone through hell during the war. This is where it got a little cringy during their interview. President Trump starts talking about his impeachment and how it's a hoax. We'll talk about that next. And President Trump was impeached twice. One of those impeachments involved some deals with Ukraine and him withholding money, not giving money that was owed to Ukraine. What is the official definition for impeachment? The process of charging a government official with a crime or misconduct, meaning they did something wrong. President Trump mentioned his impeachment as part of the challenges he's faced. I think some Americans misunderstand this too, but impeachment doesn't mean the president or the politician gets kicked out of office. They don't have to leave. It just means important people are going to discuss if that person needs to leave, and they will have a vote on it. Both times President Trump was impeached, the powerful people voted in a way that made it so President Trump didn't have to leave. Hoax, fake news. I think President Trump invented that term. It's a false statement or event meant to trick people. Trump has called the impeachment process a hoax many times.
It was very honorable. I don't even know if you know this, but when they did the impeachment hoax, it was a hoax, just a Democrat hoax, which we won. But one of the reasons we won it so easily is that when the president was asked, it was over a phone call with the president, and he said he could have grandstanded and played cute, but he didn't do that. He said, President Trump did absolutely nothing wrong. He said it loud and clear, and the impeachment hoax died right there.
President Trump said President Zelensky did not do any kind of grandstanding. What does that mean? It's kind of like bragging, if you know that word. Trying to impress people by showing off or speaking loudly. Some people accuse the leaders of grandstanding during the meeting. That is just an example sentence. I don't think President Zelensky was grandstanding at all. Maybe President Trump a little bit, bragging about what he had done, played cute. President Trump says President Zelensky did not play cute. What does that mean? To act cleverly, but not be serious about something important. President Trump said President Zelensky didn't try to play cute when asked the tough questions. Yeah, when President Trump was talking about how much President Zelensky thought that President Trump didn't do anything wrong, it looked like President Zelensky wanted to finish the meeting, leave, maybe try to make everyone laugh, but I'm sure he was uncomfortable. I was uncomfortable for him.
He was he was like a piece of steel. He said President Trump did nothing wrong. We had a very nice call. He congratulated me on his victory. He just won. And I remember that. He could have played cute, and he didn't play cute. And so I appreciated that. So we have a very good relationship. And I also have a very good relationship, as you know, with President Putin. And I think if we win, I think we're going to get it resolved very quickly. I really think we're going to get it resolved.
I hope we have more good relations.
We're going to have.
Me again. As I edit this video, I finally got what President Zelensky was saying. I didn't understand it while I was recording this lesson, but I watched it again. President Trump says, as you know, I have a very good relationship with President Putin. And then a couple seconds later, probably Zelensky is translating in his head. I think he tries to make the joke that, oh, well, you and I have a better relationship than you and Putin. All right, let's get back to that English lesson. I hope you are learning lots of English. Piece of steel. Piece of steel. Steel is a type of metal in English. If someone is a piece of steel, that means they are strong and they are tough. I would think most people would agree President Zelensky is a piece of steel. People describe President Zelensky as a piece of steel for how he handles the war. Resolved. I think this is our third or fourth term talking about how something ends. I know I've used resolved already in this English lesson, but let's get a definition. Settled or solved? You had a problem, you fixed it. President Trump hopes the conflict in Ukraine can be resolved soon.
And I also have a very good relationship, as you know, with President Putin. And I think if we win, I think we're going to get it resolved very quickly. I really think we're going to get it resolved.
I hope we have more good relations.
We're going to have. Oh, I see. Yeah, but you know, it takes two to tango. You know, and we will. We're going to have a good meeting today. And I think the fact that we're even together today is a very good sign, and hopefully we'll have a good victory, because if the other side wins, I don't think you're going to have victories with anything, to be honest with you. So we're going to sit down and just discuss it, and if we have a win, I think long before January 20th, before I would take the presidency, it's January 20th, but long before that, I think that we can work out something that's good for both sides. It's time. And by the way, the president knows that too. He wants to get something done.
You'll hear this quite a bit in English. It takes two to tango. Tango is a type of dance. Both people or groups need to work together to solve a problem. And he was mentioning how it's partly President Putin's job and President Zelensky's job to get together, try to talk about peace. President Trump said it takes two to tango when it comes to peace with Russia. Now, it can be a little confusing because President Trump says if the other side wins, there will be no peace. He's talking about Kamala Harris. If she wins, he is saying that there's no chance peace can happen in Ukraine. So he did use this meeting as an opportunity to talk about why he should be president. I think it added a little bit to the awkwardness of the situation. Sometimes I don't think President Trump can help himself. I hope you have enjoyed this English lesson. If you are looking for more English lessons, right down there is another news story about Ukraine and Russia. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time.